Welcome to Cognitive Curves, the podcast where we explore the intricate workings of the human mind. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that's as fascinating as it is controversial: the dark psychology of influencing your crush. We're talking about the subtle psychological techniques that can help you grab the attention of someone you're interested in. Ethically, of course, because manipulating someone's feelings isn't the goal here. Instead, we're focusing on strategies backed by psychological principles to enhance connection and attraction. Buckle up. This is going to be an eye-opener.
Hi, everyone. I'm so curious about this topic. There's definitely a fine line between influencing someone and outright manipulation. So let's start with a burning question. Is it even possible to influence someone's feelings in a genuine way?
Great question. The answer is yes. Research shows that human emotions and behaviors are influenced by psychological principles like reciprocity, familiarity, and emotional association. For instance, Dr. Robert Cialdini's work on persuasion highlights how these principles operate in everyday interactions. But before we dive into tips and tricks, let's emphasize that the goal is to create a connection based on mutual respect, not deceit.
Okay, let's start with reciprocity. What does that mean in the context of influencing your crush? Does this mean just giving gifts, or is there more to it?
Reciprocity is the idea that people feel compelled to give back when they receive something. In relationships, this could be as simple as showing genuine interest in your crush's passions or lending a listening ear. A study published in Psychological Science, 2015, found that small acts of kindness or attention can significantly increase emotional closeness. For example, complimenting their achievements or offering thoughtful support can create a subconscious desire to reciprocate your kindness. It's not just about material gifts, it's about showing you care in meaningful ways.
What about familiarity? I've heard people say out of sight, out of mind. Does that hold true here? Like how often should we be around the person to make an impact?
Exactly. Familiarity plays a big role in attraction. This is based on the mere exposure effect, a concept introduced by social psychologist Robert Zajonc. His research shows that the more we see or interact with someone, the more likely we are to develop positive feelings toward them. However, there's a caveat. You have to balance showing up in their life without crossing into clingy or intrusive territory. This might mean being part of the same social group or sharing common hobbies where your presence feels natural. It's about being present without overwhelming them.
Okay, so once you're in their orbit, how do you build a deeper emotional connection? I've heard about mirroring. Is that a thing?
One powerful strategy is emotional mirroring, which involves reflecting their mood, tone, or even posture. This technique, also known as rapport building, is supported by studies in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, 2014, which found that people are more likely to trust and connect with those who subtly mimic their behavior. For example, if they're excited about something, match their enthusiasm, but make sure it's authentic. Mirroring helps create a sense of we're on the same wavelength.
Interesting, but what if they start to take you for granted? How do you keep the spark alive?
This is where the psychology of scarcity comes in. People often value what feels exclusive or hard to obtain. Cialdini's principle of scarcity suggests that being too available might reduce perceived value. This doesn't mean playing games, but creating a balanced dynamic where you're not always immediately accessible. A classic study in Motivation and Emotion, 2016, found that intermittent availability can heighten interest. For example, spacing out your interactions can make your presence feel more special.
That makes sense. But isn't there also something to be said about vulnerability in building attraction? Like sharing your own stories and feelings?
Absolutely. Vulnerability fosters emotional intimacy. Dr. Brené Brown's research highlights how sharing personal stories or emotions can deepen connections. It's about letting your guard down in a way that feels safe and appropriate. For example, sharing a meaningful experience or admitting a small, endearing flaw can make you appear more relatable and human. This approach taps into our natural desire for connection and trust.
So, how do we make interactions memorable? Like, what kind of activities or experiences can we create?
This brings us to the concept of emotional anchoring. By creating positive, memorable experiences, you become associated with those emotions in their mind. Studies from Cognition and Emotion, 2012, show that people often link their feelings during an experience to the person they're with. For example, inviting them to a fun activity or sharing a laugh over an inside joke helps create an emotional bond tied to positive memories. It's about creating moments that stand out and feel special.
This has been really enlightening so far. But let's talk about what not to do. What are some dark tactics we should steer clear of? Like what's a big no-no?
Great point. Manipulative behaviors like guilt tripping, excessive flattery, or creating unnecessary jealousy might yield short-term results, but they can damage trust and create toxic dynamics. Research published in Personality and Individual Differences, 2019, shows that relationships built on manipulation are more likely to fail. The key is to focus on authenticity and mutual respect, ensuring the connection is healthy and sustainable. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Remember, the goal of these strategies is not to manipulate, but to enhance genuine connections by understanding the psychology of attraction. Small, thoughtful actions can go a long way in building meaningful relationships.
Thanks for those insights. To our listeners, if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe to Cognitive Curves for more psychological deep dives. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, remember to approach every interaction with authenticity and respect.